Welcome. My name is Kirsten Wilson. I am Regional Partnership Manager with ASCD ISD, and I recently presented at the Arkansas ASCD Whole Child Annual Conference, where Dr. Gotcher and I have connected several times over the past year. And I presented there on navigating the educational landscape in regard to the comprehensive exploration of AI guidelines and implementation strategies. And he asked for me to record this for you all to present to you all so that you would have kind of an awareness of what is going on currently in regards to AI and possibly how it may apply to you as a aspiring leader or as a current leader in our schools. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm an educator of 25 plus years of experience. I started as a paraprofessional working with second graders, supporting struggling readers. And over the years, I've done several things from instructional technology coach to assistant principal, director of curriculum instruction with a state virtual school. And my last stop was as a division of elementary and secondary education, where I served as a state coordinator of e-learning for the state of Arkansas before joining ASCD ISD a year and a half ago. I have the mom of two college kids, so we have adult-ish people in our house, but according to my payroll, they're not quite adult-ish yet. So we're enjoying that kind of area of limbo, whatever, quasi-adult. I'm married to my husband. We'll be celebrating 30 years this July, Eric. And we met at the University of Arkansas many, many years ago. I'm also pursuing my PhD at UCA in the Leadership for Equity and Inclusion program with a concentration in digital age curriculum and instruction. So that's where my passion for AI comes from. This is something that I've been following as a personal interest for quite some time. I am a founding member of the Human Intelligence Movement, and I'll talk a little bit about that at the very end. But if you're wanting to check that out, you can find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and X, formerly Twitter. I like to do these sessions where I talk about something that makes me uniquely human, and I like for people to consider things that make them uniquely human. And I am a wishful gardener. Epic failure as a gardener, but for 20 years I have tried to have a garden. I just say that because if you see me at the farmer's market on the weekend, it's because I am epically failing at the garden in my backyard, but yet every year I put it in, I'm very proud of it, and I yield nothing. But I love the fact of being a wishful gardener. Also, side note, in the CAPTCHA, I can always identify all of the fire hydrants that verify that I'm human. So our objectives for today are explore the motivations, benefits, and strategic considerations behind AI adoption in education while addressing the concerns and challenges to promote so that we can promote a balanced approach. I want to also provide insights into successful AI implementation strategies, tools, and resources that can enhance educator efficiency and student engagement in the classroom. And then discuss some core components of effective AI guidelines, covering board policy considerations and key elements that should be included in the guidelines. And then finally, just encouraging that fostered collaboration and support among educators, administrators, and policymakers as we navigate the dynamic AI landscape in education, being able to maximize the benefits of AI integration. So normally during a face-to-face session, I would do a poll, but because we're not face-to-face, I'm just going to share a recent poll that I did about where people are with their current knowledge and experience with AI in education. And I find that most people are aware and maybe have used it to some extent or have used AI knows and so know how AI tools may be being used in education. Most people know more than just what AI stands for, but yet they don't consider themselves experts. And I will just stop for a moment and say I am not an expert either, but I do try to stay afresh on what's happening and learn along with others. And I'm always excited to learn more. Share with you is a quote, and this comes from Kent Walker, who's president of global affairs for Google and Alphabet. And he makes the statement that AI is simultaneously revolutionary and something that's been quietly helping us out for years. And some of you may not be aware, but AI has been something that's been a consideration and research and development since the 1950s. It's just of late, it's become a conversation because of the release of OpenAI in November of 2022, which is a generative type of AI. But before we go into and explore more, I would like to stop for a minute for you guys to do a quick draw with Google. So I'd like for you to go to quickdraw.withgoogle.com, and I'd like for you to do that. It's a little Pictionary type activity. And so I'd like for you to pause the video and then go try this for a minute. So please go to quickdraw.withgoogle.com and then pause the video. Okay, you should have paused the video and tried this out. And what I want for you to think about is, as you went through this activity, what did you notice? How complicated or how simplistic did you have to be in order for this machine learning to recognize what you had done? And also, how quickly did you change your approach so that it could guess what you were drawing? In addition, how much did you go to simplistic symbols or recognizable, unifiable type shapes to do your drawings? And just think about that and how AI works. Before we move on, I do want to talk about the types of AI just so that we can clarify and have a better understanding. First, probably the one that we've been using the longest is that reactive AI. And those are tools that respond to specific inputs and situations without learning from past experiences. For example, Alexa, Roomba, or a chess playing computer. Then we have predictive AI, and this has been in our world for quite some time. Some of you may be annoyed by the predictive AI from Facebook. You're searching for something on your phone through one of your search engines, and the next thing you know, all these ads are popping up on Facebook. So that's a predictive AI. Netflix will recommend things based on what you're watching, and if your children are on your account, you may be getting recommendations that are not necessarily your interest, but it may be your child's interest. For example, it may be suggesting that you watch the next Bluey episode. And then the one that has created all of, how should I say it, the uproar is generative AI, which are tools that generate new content or outputs, often creating something novel from learned patterns, where we provided a prompt and then it gives us a response based on that. And those examples are like ChatGPT, Claude AI may be another one. You may have something specific. You or your teachers may be using Magic School. So there's a lot of different things. And then there's embedded AI. For example, Canva, the platform Canva, also has an embedded AI that it uses within its system. And I've used it for some things, including helping me put together this presentation. So there are some key benefits and potential of AI. And you probably heard some of these. It helps with personalized learning. You can adapt assessments and activities to specific needs. It provides efficiency with some administrative tasks. I don't know if you've used this, but it helps me write emails all the time. Data-driven insights. It can help you if you input data. It can give you some data-driven insights, although I'd always be cautious with this. And then accessibility and inclusion. I'll give you an example. Currently, I'm in a quantitative class. I'm reading a book. It seems like Greek to me sometimes, and I don't understand exactly everything the book is saying. So I will take some of the key phrases out of the book. I will put it up into ChatGPT and ask it to explain it to me as if I was a ninth grader. It will then give me back a response based on that helps me better understand and kind of bridge that gap of knowledge that I have. And then I'm able to go back to my book and better comprehend the content in the book. In some of the same ways, this can help scaffold that learning for students. 21st century skills development. We know that in many places, AI is already being used, and the skill of being able to use that tool in different business settings and those skills are essential as our students are learning this, to have that experience so that it can then transfer once they move into the career part of their lives. And then it has enhanced research capabilities, so that you can also use AI to help you with those research things that you may be doing. It's important to note some points of consideration. AI will enhance learning, and you can enhance learning with AI and providing the opportunity to solve real world problems, such as giving a realistic problem and using problem-based learning in order to solve that. I want to share one of those examples here.
Life in the foothills of Placer County is peaceful.
And there's a little creek down at the bottom of the hill that flows through, and it's full of blackberry bushes.
For nearly 15 years, Beverly Johnson's mountain retirement home has been her sanctuary, a place to make and reflect on memories.
It was one with my husband when we did a walk for MS. My husband had MS.
But after losing her husband to MS, Beverly's secluded home became lonely.
A lot of times it does. There are only so many things you can do. And usually when you're doing something, you like to do it with someone else.
Hi Beverly, what kind of ingredients do you usually like to put in your salads?
But a few weeks ago, Beverly met a new friend.
I have shrimp, I have carrots. What would you recommend?
This is Jerry.
I think adding eggs, cheese, lettuce and carrots would be a great combination.
Jerry is a conversational artificial intelligence cell phone app made for lonely humans.
You know, I'm kind of really having fun with this because she makes me laugh. And even if it's a mistake, it kind of just makes me chuckle that I'm talking to a computer.
People treat her like she's a real person.
This is Rishi Ambavanikar and Rohan Kulkarni, student inventors from Vista del Lago High School in Folsom.
So we want to see this scaled up a lot, right? So we want to see people with Alzheimer's using this system. We want to see people who are struggling with these social communication because they're isolated.
Rishi and Rohan are not your typical high schoolers, and Jerry is not their first invention.
5 students, 5 brilliant minds.
I came up with the idea to create a novel EEG device that would translate the patient's thoughts into words.
Last year, Rishi was featured on Good Morning America for inventing a device that helped stroke victims communicate. And Rohan has a makeshift laboratory of inventions that
So what you saw there with that is a very special situation, of course, but when we give students the opportunity to use things like AI, or create things with AI to do problem-based learning, we really expand the opportunities that they may have. So some emerging trends and future possibilities with AI are the use of AI in immersive learning experiences, for example, virtual and augmented reality type of situations, which we already have some of those happening in classrooms. We also have the opportunity for the potential of AI-powered learning companions in situations where maybe we're kind of stretched thin with additional learning aids in the classroom. AI learning companions can be that way that we can maximize that and provide additional support so that students can have that learning companion support all of the time, 24/7, instead of just when the adult is available. Then there's the role of AI in supporting emotional learning. And I actually work with an organization. I am an educational consultant and provide feedback to a platform where you can ask open-ended questions about content and the students reply. And not only does it take the data of the students' reply to see that they understand or don't understand the question from a formative standpoint, but also how are the students feeling in that moment as they're replying about the content and then just in general. So it gives us a social emotional piece as well about how they're doing. And AI can also support the social emotional learning from a standpoint of building agency for the student. So I'd like for you to take a minute and just think, how can these emerging trends shape the future of education for us? Now, as we know, there are a lot of ethical considerations and responsible AI use to think about. There is an absolute urgency for digital literacy with AI literacy. Digital literacy being the larger umbrella, and AI literacy being a component of that. When we talk about AI, a lot of times we immediately go to the grade band of those 9th to 12th graders, because they can ethically be in there where there's not the COPA compliance, because, you know, under the age of 13 with information, data privacy and things like that, things get really tight. But the idea of digital literacy and recognizing good information versus not good information, prompt engineering, things like that, that critical thinking, computational thinking skills happen well before they can have that access to that open AI or generative AI. And we can start that as they walk through the door as pre-kindergartners or kindergartners, all the way up until they're actually having that access. So building those muscles before they have access to the actual work is really important. There is also ways that it can be embedded AI where there is still the consideration for student safety. So we need to give them the opportunity to explore and be able to do this in safe environments. So it's important that we build those digital literacy skills and integrate them, because our students are no longer physical citizens and digital citizens. They are integrated, and it's all citizens at this point. And so our integration of the digital tools needs to be with the same mind that they're walking through the door to us as fully integrated digital citizens and physical citizens in their space. So there are some ethical implications of AI in education. We also need to take into consideration concerns such as data privacy, the algorithmic bias and potential for AI to exacerbate existing inequalities. One of the things that if you go into an image AI generator and you ask it to provide you a picture of a doctor, those doctors are predominantly, those images are going to be white males. If you again ask it to provide you a picture of an educator, they're predominantly going to be white females. And so it's really important that when we're using AI and things like that, we be cognizant of that and be working with students and for students to not encourage or exacerbate that bias, but to be that human piece that balances that. It's also important, there's importance in developing and adhering to ethical guidelines for responsible AI use in education. Basically, without guidelines for responsible use, students are kind of the wild, wild west, and so are the teachers. And it's been in recent articles, teachers have said they want to use AI, but they're cautious because they want to do it, they do no harm, and they don't want to do something wrong that would harm their students. So they have chosen not to use it, which creates a digital divide. Some additional considerations is that as we consider where we're going with this, that we have a focus that is collaborative with AI and human partnerships to enhance, but not replace. We also need to focus on how we prepare educators for AI integration, building that AI literacy among educators and providing that ongoing support. They need to have that support so that they can feel empowered and they're not afraid to use it. And also it needs to be ongoing, because as you guys have seen when it first came out in November 2022, there's also already been several iterations of ChatGPT. There's been several other things that have gotten on the market since then. And there needs to be an ongoing support because of this ever-changing environment that we're in with AI. The other part is that we need to ensure that we're measuring and evaluating the AI impact, having clear metrics and evaluation frameworks to assess the impact of AI and educational outcomes. When we first moved to one-to-one in several places and technology came to the forefront in between 2009 and 2012, what happened at that time is that we made a huge mistake and basically threw out curriculum and good instruction and jumped on the technology bandwagon. Let's play this new tool. Let's do this new thing. Ooh, isn't this fancy and fun? And what happened is kids were having a lot of fun playing around with technology, and so were teachers. But when we asked, what are we learning? We couldn't answer that question. And in some of the research, there was no improvement in student success. And in some situations, there was a decline or a negative impact because of use of technology. Now, that was incorrectly understood that we should get rid of technology and go back to pencil paper, but really it was about implementation. Technology needed to be a support or enhancement, and teaching needed to continue to happen, but it needed to be integrated. That is the same approach that we need to do now. How do we integrate approaches with AI in our practice, in our workflow, and also as we model to our students as they learn? So some concerns and challenges. First, there's that privacy and data security piece. In all of these conversations, your IT person that runs your school, your chief technology officer, whoever that is, needs to be front and center with the conversations, because their job is to keep you all safe and to keep you out of trouble. At the same time, we're trying to keep everyone safe. We have to balance that with keeping pace with the rapid advancements that are happening and making sure that we are giving access. Closing or shutting off student and teachers' access to open or generative AI is not the answer, because what happens is we are creating a greater technology divide when we do that, because students that don't have access at home and their only option is at school and they are not able to access it, are going to be put at a disadvantage compared to those students that can go home and access it. And the other thing is that they're accessing it in a place where they don't have guidance or support, whereas in a school where they're accessing, we can provide guidance, support, and help, because parents are in much the same situation and they are not sure how to navigate it as well. So this is an opportunity for us to be at the forefront and lead and support in this dynamic time that we're in. There is a concern on over-reliance of technology, and we do need to take that in consideration. We don't want a situation where we have teachers creating average type AI lessons and they don't have the pedagogical background to know if the AI lesson is good or not, because they come from an alternative certification situation and they haven't learned that good pedagogy yet. Then they take that average lesson, create an average assessment, and give it to their students, who then go and use AI to answer the assessment and then hand the assessment back in, and then the teacher uses AI to grade the assessment. That is an over-reliance of technology. That is not what this is purposed for. And so we need to be very clear on how we want it to be used and the ways that it needs to be used and why it's important to use it in those ways. And that's why that professional development and training is so important for our educators, and so that they can enhance their practices and evolve their practices so that we can better ensure that there is authentic learning still going on. So I want you to take a minute and just think, what are some of your concerns or challenges around AI? So after making those considerations and those thoughts and concerns, I want to tell you that as we approach our next steps, we do it thoughtfully and with balance. A thoughtful and balanced approach to AI integration in education is crucial for realizing its potential while navigating its complexities and challenges involved. We realize that it's not going to be perfect, but this is a both-and situation instead of an either-or. We need to make sure we prioritize certain things, and those things being ethics, equity, human-centered values, and collaboration. And in that way, we can harness the power of AI to enhance teaching and learning responsibly. To support this balanced approach, I highly recommend the development of a comprehensive AI guideline or guidelines and policies in order for you to have your organization move forward. Guidelines should address the key considerations and concerns surrounding AI integration, providing a framework for implementation that ensures that the benefits are maximized while the risks are mitigated, and it gives teachers and students a clear idea of where they need to go and what they need to do. I want to provide an analogy for you. For example, this is a playground analogy. If you don't have a fence around the playground and the students run out, a lot of times they'll stay close to the building because they're unsure of how far they should go and how safe they should be. But when you put a fence or guidelines around it, they will play in the entire playground. And what we want to do is create a fence that gives them the opportunity to play with AI in that safe entire space instead of staying so close that they really just dabble and don't get into that deep learning with AI. So the where and the what of AI guidelines. I'm going to give you a few things. In AI guidelines, you have to balance the opportunities with the potential risk. So you want to look at the opportunities with those personalized learning experiences, how you can customize it to individual needs through tutoring and other tools, how it can aid in creativity and critical thinking, both for teachers and students. It can support curriculum and content development, but it isn't the curriculum and content development itself. It assists or supports. It complements professional learning, so it can be that enhancement piece. It isn't the professional learning, but it supports it. And then it can just strengthen those communication and those tasks when we talk about workflow, and increase productivity and efficiencies so that we can spend more time focusing on relationships with students. There is the potential risk with plagiarism and academic dishonesty, but I encourage you to go out and Google Richard Coletta and his recent conversation that he had on Capitol Hill, where he talks about the fact that since ChatGPT came out, that cheating is still at the same level it was before. It's abhorrent. Like almost 72% of all students that were surveyed cheat, but that it did not increase with ChatGPT when the availability of generative AI came out. So it's not that we have a tool issue, we have a character issue, which goes back to talking about digital literacy, digital citizenship, and talking about those ethical issues starting at a very young age and having those conversations that we scaffold throughout their lifetime of their K through 12 education. We also have the compromised student privacy and unauthorized data collection that we need to be conscious of, hence always having your CTO or your IT in the room with you as you're talking about guidelines and policy, being aware of bias and lack of cultural sensitivity, your teachers being aware of that and sensitive to that and alert to that. Again, that over-reliance and loss of critical thinking. Where are we going to use this? When are we going to use this? And how are we going to use this so that we don't have an over-reliance and a loss of actual learning? And then that cybersecurity piece, which is really essential because we all play a role in cybersecurity, and how do we play that role? So making sure that we're all educated and what our part is in ensuring the security of everyone in that cyberspace in our schools. So one of the things that we've done is we've gone through the guidelines of several different guideline documents and looked at what are some of the similarities in those documents. The first part is that it focuses on the humans in the loop, that unique human quality about us, and how that works with responsible use. We also look at the evolving workforce needs. What are we doing throughout our curriculum that focuses on what are those needs going to be once they leave us as global citizens? Then, of course, how does these guidelines fit into our broader school or district goals? Because we want to make sure that we are focusing on what is our wildly important goals and that what we put in the guidelines fits in alignment with that. And then AI literacy. How are we integrating our digital literacy, AI literacy into our learning every day? How are our teachers modeling that? How is it part of our everyday practice? And how are we having those conversations around that to facilitate that literacy? Because remember, our students are not digital citizens or physical citizens, but they're integrated into all environments, both digital and physical. And then that professional development piece is also in guidelines that says we're going to provide professional development. This is how we're going to do the professional development, and that we're constantly going to iterate that support as the AI iterates and changes itself. And then data privacy, making sure that we understand what data privacy is, making sure that we understand what we need to do in order to keep that privacy in place, and how do we protect our students and our educators and our other people that work in our organization to keep our data safe. And then recognizing that AI detectors have problems and that there is not a fail-safe AI detector out there. In fact, some of the AI detectors that are out there have found to have bias. Specifically with English language learners, they have tended to flag products that students have turned in as using AI that are from English language learners at a much higher rate than students that English is their first language. And so many universities and colleges have actually stopped using some of those products that they were using before, like Turnitin, to check for cheating. So some board policy considerations: data governance and privacy, establishing clear policies for data collection, storage, and use. You probably already have one in there that your district has in there. The state of Arkansas also has one. If you're not sure what that is, I would check with them and talk to your CTO or your instructional technology people. Also, ensure compliance with data protection regulations like FERPA and COPA. Make sure your teachers know about FERPA and COPA. And that they understand that they don't need to be entering student data into something that is not approved by your IT department. Ethical guidelines for AI use, develop ethical principles for AI development and deployment, address fairness, transparency, accountability, and non-discrimination. Also consider equity and accessibility. How is this important to your students that have access needs? Ensure that AI technologies are accessible to all students. And that means for those students that maybe don't have access at home, how are you providing them that they have the opportunity at school so they have the same or afforded the same opportunities and access as students who do have access at home? Address the digital divide and mitigate bias. Make sure that your guidelines and your policies aren't creating barriers to access. Teacher training support. I can't iterate this enough, but provide that professional development opportunities for AI literacy. Also, your seasoned teachers are going to be wonderful for supporting your new teachers that may be coming from those alternative training or alternative certification programs, because those veteran teachers are going to be able to take those AI generated lessons and be able to poke holes in them and help your new teachers see where they're not physically sound for instruction. Allocate resources for ongoing training and support. Make sure that you have something put in your budget or provide a way or look for grants to support that. Curriculum and assessment. Align your AI integration with curriculum standards and learning objectives. See how it pulls in and it integrates. And if you're having trouble seeing that, bring somebody on that can help you see how those integrate. Develop guidelines for AI use in student assessment and evaluation, as well as student product. And be really clear about those things and make sure as you're talking about these guidelines, you're bringing students to the table as you develop these guidelines, teachers to the table from several different subject areas and grade bands, and that you're bringing in possibly community and families that can add to perspective to this as well and make this a stakeholder event. That stakeholder engagement is the sixth one. And communication, engaging those families and parents or students in the community in those AI discussions. Families are in the same boat we are right now. But if we can be the point of contact and support as we all navigate this, then we can help guide our students with the support of our parents and bring everybody on board to work towards a feasible way to prepare our students for the future. So, guidance landscape. On the left, you'll see several states. These states are either in the works or have presented guidelines from their Department of Ed for their state. And the last one that was added was Arizona. The two that I want to highlight are Oregon, which was one of the very first that most of the other states have built their guidelines on as a sample guideline, and it has an excellent document for guidelines. And then the last one, which just came out, which was Arizona, which has some great frameworks and also has some really good rubrics that you may want to look at as well as you develop your own framework. Some common things are that you should focus on recommendations in your guidelines, not regulations. It should be, as mentioned before, aligned to workforce needs. Like, what are your students going to need once they leave your K-12 environment? Human-centered responsible use. Focus on the human aspect, how we and that human intelligence is the factor, and that AI is simply an aside to the human intelligence. Focus on principles, those ethics, and alignment to frameworks and resources that you have. Make sure that your guidelines fit along with what you already have in place in your district and that vision and mission that you have for your district. Some areas to address would be risks, which are academic integrity, data privacy and security, bias, over-reliance, cybersecurity, equity and inclusion. And then under teaching and learning, pedagogy and practice, which I can't stress enough, because the pedagogy and practice is something that is uniquely human. AI will generate things, but good pedagogy, teachers are always going to be the ones that know the best in that. The curriculum implications, where is it appropriate? Where is it not appropriate? How do we bring this in? How do we make sure that this is a high quality instructional material approach? And then professional learning. How are we supporting an ongoing support? And how are we integrating it into our professional learning? Not just teaching about AI, but how are we integrating this as we provide professional learning in several different aspects? And then that AI literacy piece. The more you play with it, the better you are with it, the more you recognize it, the more you can do. So where might we address these issues? So under the risk and under the teaching and learning, we want to look at instructional resources, guidance documents, policies, and state and federal regulations. So instructional resources, if you have a portrait of a graduate, that's a great place to look and see how you can integrate and bring in that portrait of graduate into your guidelines and vice versa. Instructional framework, if you have an instructional framework, you'll want to bring it into that. And then look at how your curriculum is. All of these pieces should be aligned to your guidelines. Guidance documents. Do you have an EdTech tool evaluation process? And if not, do we need to get one in place? And what are the guidelines that we want to have for that? Student code of conduct, and while it's not listed here, what about your human resource policies that you have, about your personnel policy guidelines? And then your teachers, as they create syllabi, they're going to want to have some guidelines or a statement that they include in that. How does that align or point back to your overall guidelines that you have? And then policies around responsible use or acceptable use, do they need to be tweaked? Or do they set as they are? Data privacy and cybersecurity, how is that set with your guidelines that you're using? And of course, at every turn, are you considering FERPA, COPA, IDEA, SEPA, and Section 504? Because there are now things where students are learning that they can use AI if they are an IDEA student or a Section 504 student that can help them with accommodations and modifications when they're learning. So which resources would you need to modify to address the areas on the left from what we talked about on your resources that are available? And what tensions do you predict that you may have that you'll need to navigate through as you work through this and your guidelines? So the when and how of AI implementation. So strategies for implementation can take on many different forms, but some things you need to be aware of is understanding AI's role, as it does automated tasks, generates content, and provides insights. You need it as you learn and as you provide professional development, teachers need to be aware of its limitations and inaccuracies and lack of personal touch. And the professional development, provide continuous learning for educators on AI integration, and then provide practical demonstrations and discussions on AI implications. Curriculum integration, building that AI literacy, those ethical considerations that we talked about before. Adaptive learning, using AI for personalized learning experiences and enhancing student engagement and understanding. Collaborative frameworks, how is this going to integrate with your PLCs and work with your collaborative meetings that you have, but also how you're going to foster collaboration among tech companies and policymakers as well, and develop guidelines to maximize the benefits of AI while you address the challenges, because we know there is both. We have challenges and we have some really unfortunate things that have happened with AI, but there are also lots of benefits. So how do we maximize those benefits? And then continuously evaluating and regularly assessing those tools and strategies that we use with AI, and use feedback to refine AI implementations. The other piece is balance AI and human elements. Ensure that AI supports and doesn't replace human teaching, and then enhance education and prepare students for an AI-centric future, because they are now a completely integrated citizen, both the digital and the physical pieces of citizenry. AI tools and resources for enhancing educator efficiency. On the previous slide, I showed some different quick reference guides that ASCD ISTE provides to help educators either with prompt engineering, helping students with digital citizenship and cybersecurity, and then also just some other things that can enhance that. One of the ISTE faculty, Dr. Liz Kolb, talks about the E3 model. And in that model, she always talks about the educator first, and that tools are there to enhance and empower, but not to take over or take the place of educators. So the tools and resources for enhancing educator efficiency, they can automatically grade, and they have automated grading and feedback tools, but we always have to be careful how we depersonalize that. There's intelligent tutoring systems that can help, where teachers can put students on those intelligent tutoring systems while they work personally or one-on-one with another student. There's also the curriculum development and content curation. But you want to make sure that you use AI algorithms that recommend high quality standard aligned content. Adaptive learning platforms adjust difficulty and sequence of learning activities based on student performance. There's also learning analytics and dashboards that can give real-time data on student engagement, progress, performance, and even mood. Virtual teaching assistants and chatbots to handle routine inquiries and facilitate online discussions. And then there's the professional development and collaborative platforms, recommend resources and facilitate collaboration for teacher growth, where they can use that. These AI-powered systems that I speak of are tools that supplement human judgment, not in place of, to help streamline tasks, personalize instruction, and provide valuable insights. So enhancing student engagement and empowerment, we can help provide personalized learning experiences, improve accessibility for them, where they're able to advocate for themselves, which then also helps with student agency, enhancing that, and building competency in their AI use. Additionally, it'll encourage higher order thinking, because we want them to question AI. And when they're questioning, they're doing that higher order thinking. We also want to use AI in a situation where it creates authentic learning experiences. So instead of creating the learning experience, it helps to promote an authentic learning experience. And then feedback and continuous learning, that you can use AI to kind of do that cycle of feedback, continue that learning, and keep them engaged. My question to you is, how do you see AI impacting your learners? I'll stop for a minute, and then if you'd like to pause and think about that, you can. And then I'm going to move to the next slide. So the next piece we're going to talk about is fostering collaboration and support. So approaches to fostering support is one of the ways you can do this is establish an AI task force. And as I said below, bring all the voices to the table. Bring students, bring families, bring community members, bring people from different subject areas, because they're all going to have a different perspective on how they would like to use AI. And it's really important, as you're creating guidelines and fostering that support, that you have an agreement on what you're going to be tight on, and that you are of one mind on that, but then that you're open to how that might work within the different types of learning environments or different content areas that your students will experience. The other thing is conduct needs assessments and surveys with the students, with the staff and the faculty, with your families and community, to see where things are, how they're feeling about things, where they sit. Organize professional development workshops for your teachers. That can be just a quick one, maybe that you do possibly through just a quick video, or they can be more intensive, but you provide those for them. Encourage cross-functional collaboration. Vertical conversations between your kindergartner and your senior level teacher. Bringing in people from the outside from the business field that are using AI. That cross-functional collaboration is so important to bring different perspectives to the table and not do this in silos, but do this together. Share your success stories and best practices. Just like I shared the story of the young students that had created the AI conversation companion. What are things that are happening with AI that are great success stories? Be sure to share those. Engage in community outreach. Use this as an opportunity as your students learn about how to use AI, that they can then do community service out in the community, helping those your retirement community, and people out in the community that may not have the same learning curve, learn about AI, possibly through your public library, or you can host events within your own school. Participate in regional and national networks. The way that you can continue to support your educators and your teachers and your community is stay connected. I'm a connectivist by learning theory, and I learn from systems and people and then pull those into ways that we can formalize the learning. And so being able to participate in regional and national networks helps to foster the learning. And AI is moving at such a quick pace that is the best space to be is in those networks. And then develop a shared vision and roadmap. It's so important in your community that you guys are all on the same page as you move through this, because when we are disconnected in our vision, it is our students that suffer the most because they have to transition from one person's vision to another person's vision, depending on which classroom or which environment they're in. And so being able to all be on the same page, both with families and with teachers in different content areas, helps to support our students. So some ways that you can say networked is through social media. I'm a part of the human intelligence movement that's on LinkedIn that is examining how AI and K-12 environments can keep human intelligence at the center. So if you're interested in that, that's one place that you'll learn a lot. They're publishing a lot of blogs and research on there that you can learn about and just interact. Or if you just want to like sit back and see what's posted, that's a great place to go. Another is our ASCD ISTE Connect platform. That's a platform that you can get on. There are people from ISTE and ASCD that are on there. There's a specific group just for AI, but there's also other rooms with leadership and things like that. It's a place that you don't have to be a member of either ASCD or ISTE to participate in the platform. And so that's a great place to get really specific information without having to go through all the hoopla of social media to get to information. It's really focused on education. And then if you'd like to be a beta tester for our beta platform, we provide specifically designed evidence-based responses in our Stretch AI. Use the QR code that you see here, and you can become a beta tester. And what we'll do is you'll go to a prompt, and through that prompt, Alexa, stop. And through that prompt, you can learn information, or when you put the prompt in Stretch AI, you can get an answer, but at the bottom of the answer, they will cite several EdSurge, ISTE, and ASCD articles that you can go on and do further reading if you would like. So my question to you is, as you navigate this, what ways are you connecting to help you through this process? So as I leave you today, the few key takeaways I have are: one, embrace AI's potential while addressing concerns through a balanced approach. This is not an either or, this is a both and. And so a balanced approach to this is really important. Develop comprehensive guidelines and policies for effective AI integration. I cannot stress the integration piece enough. This is no longer where we are in two separate parallel roads where we have digital technology and education. They are now on the same path. And so that integration is key, and those guidelines will help provide that fence or frame so that educators and students know how they can operate within that system. Leverage AI-powered tools to enhance educator efficiency and effectiveness is another aspect. And then foster collaboration among educators, administrators, and policymakers for that successful AI implementation so that our students can be successful. Just a side note, this picture here is an AI-generated image based on a description of my own French bulldogs that I have. And so that's an important piece of that. That you can do that. I will tell you that I asked for it to do a fawn colored Frenchie. It kind of got the color wrong, but it's a pretty good spitting image of one of my French bulldogs. In the next steps, I want you to be thinking about what you're going to be doing, because right now AI will force us humans to double down on those talents and skills that only humans possess. The most important thing about AI may be that it shows us what it can't do, and so reveals who we are and what we have to offer. And that is what is uniquely human about all of us. This picture right here was a cartoon AI that I generated of one of my French bulldogs. So just so you can see, there's some different ways that I play around with AI that you can also engage with your students. I want to leave you with this. If you have any questions that you have or want more answers, please feel free to reach out to me. I appreciate that Dr. Gotcher gave me the opportunity to talk with you guys and discuss about AI. I hope that I've answered some questions for you, but I hope that also this has generated curiosity that you're going to go out and seek more learning. Again, thank you so much for your time. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your term with Dr. Gotcher. Thank you so much.